Good morning and welcome. What a beautiful morning just to be able to showcase this partnership between the City of Evansville and the University of Evansville, and we're really excited about it. Part of this project has really been driven by a student who you'll meet a little bit later, who has a real heart for making Evansville better. So as the Director of the Evansville Water and Sewer Utility, my name is Lane Young, so I want to welcome you all here today. I'm going to pass it off quickly to the people that really know what they're talking about, but we're excited about this project because it's a partnership, because we're going to be good stewards of the resources we have here in Evansville, and we're trying to make our city better. So with that, let me turn it over to Mike Labitzke, who's the Director of our Program Management Office here at the utility.
Thanks, Lane. So this project, the Trinity Stormwater Park, is part of a larger program for the consent decree from the EPA that the City of Evansville is under. Currently, we have over 300 million gallons of sewage that dumps out in a typical year as overflow out into the Ohio River from the downtown area. And this project will redirect 40 million gallons of that into the stormwater system, the stormwater project that Matt will talk about here in a minute. So it's one of over a dozen projects that we have in the downtown area now. This one obviously being the largest, it represents more than 10% of our total effort to date. But some of the other projects are like Cherry Street and the parking lot at the YMCA, the parking lot at the Civic Center. There are over a dozen of them in the downtown. So we're really excited about this one because it's the largest one. It's the more regional in nature than the other ones. And I'll let Matt Montgomery, who's the project manager for the project, kind of fill you in on the details.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I'm Matt Montgomery. I'm the project manager for this project. And as Mike said, the main interest here for EWSU started with this green infrastructure program. So what we're doing, we've acquired this property from the Catholic Church, and our intention is to demolish this building that you see behind us, and we'll talk about that in a second, but we are putting in, basically trying to separate our stormwater from our sewage. So we're going to put in some new storm lines here that's basically going to reach from over to Ingle Street, down to 3rd, up to 6th, and over to Sycamore. And all that water is going to be diverted to this site where we're going to put in about a 2.3 million gallon infiltration basin to store and slowly release that stormwater back into the ground, and thus not going into our system and ultimately reducing our sewer overflows. So the first step in our project is what you're seeing behind you is phase 1. We have to get this building down off the ground, down to the ground. So, but as Robert Lopez will speak to in a minute, we're actually going to repurpose this site for some above ground park amenities, and we wanted to preserve the history of this church, so we've taken some steps to salvage and reclaim some of those materials on this church to incorporate back into that project. Specifically, you can see the limestone on the buildings being pulled off to be reused. There's going to be some granite that's associated with the building we're going to reuse, and the beautiful stained glass windows are going to be taken out and reused in that park. So I'd like to let Robert Lopez with U of E speak to what we're going to do with that stuff once we take it down.
Hello, my name is Robert Lopez with the University of Evansville. So just a little bit of background about where I got started on the project. So I would not be here if I was not in my biology class as a junior in high school. I was approached by Erin because the Bosse High School had not submitted a Changemaker team for the university's High School Changemaker Challenge that year. And Erin came in and basically said, hey, you have 2 weeks to do this project. We can kind of spitball you an idea, and no one's presented yet. So if anybody would like to step up and make a team, you're more than welcome to. And me being a high school junior that didn't do much besides school, I said, why not? So I nudged my friend next to me, and 3 years later, I guess it's been now, almost 4, here I am, continuing to work on the project. We participated in the High School Changemaker Challenge twice, once as a junior and then as a senior. We got 3rd place and then 2nd place the following year. And to say that it's been a wild ride is an understatement. To see it go from purely conceptual to now having demolition is absolutely insane, because as a junior in high school, you certainly don't think that a project you work on is going to turn into something real, let alone an entire park. I mean, there aren't a lot of kids majority of people, especially in high school, don't think they can kind of pull this sort of thing off, and yet, right, here we are. So to talk a little bit about more the concept itself, it's really about repurposing and giving back to the community. That's kind of where my focus and involvement has been at. While Mike and everybody at the EWSU has been focused on the engineering and the physicality and actually making sure that the plans get implemented, my role has been community input and basically trying to get as much attention and as much sort of feedback from the people that are going to be using this park as much as possible. And one of the biggest things has been to reuse everything we can from this church. It's sort of giving back to the community in a way that I don't think a lot of projects do. By reusing what we have, the materials we have here, it's really kind of giving back in a way that is kind of unseen in a lot of places. The goal is to ultimately make a park that's not just for us, but for everybody. It's not something that one person's done. It's not something that 2 or 3 people have done. It's something that the city of Evansville is throwing together. And through all the input I've gotten as a junior all the way now to a sophomore in college, that's probably been the biggest thing. It's been community input, trying to get as much outreach and as much touch and feedback from the people that are really going to be using this park. And eventually this park will be a part of Evansville's history and a part of Evansville's life. And so anything, any dollar amount, any fundraising, any information, input is all helpful, because ultimately what the city of Evansville gives us, we can give right back to them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. So I'm Erin Lewis. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Center for Innovation and Change at the University of Evansville. And my role, as Robert has stated, is to help bring young people into this collaborative community that we have. This only works if we have municipal workers at the Evansville Water and Sewer Utility who are willing to come and say, I have to build these giant tanks. What do I put back on top of it? How can we use young people to collaborate and to design something that leaves it better than how we found it? And it only works if we have a mayor who's collaborative and a university that believes in its civic mission and is an Ashoka Changemaker campus and says, this is what we should do. We are the University of Evansville. This is our role here. We need to know what it needs and work to achieve it. And if we have students like Robert who are willing to come here and just put their blood, sweat, and tears into this, he's been in the ChangeLab program now since he got there as a freshman. And he's been working with Mike Labitzke as his coach, and that's a unique thing that this region has, a university where the students can get class credit for working with municipal workers to make the world a better place. So we are so excited about the potential here, in particular, not just because of the collaborative nature, but what it can do for downtown and for this region. We know that it's going to become an attraction for elementary students all over the region to come visit, that people are going to eat at these restaurants and shop at these stores, and that there's a really significant economic impact that parks like this can have on their regions. If you're familiar with the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, a 2015 IU Public Policy report found that it had almost $1 billion increase in about 7 years in assessed property tax values. And there's a wait list for businesses to get near it. So in addition to solving a problem for Evansville Water and Sewer, for filtering water, for educating the public on how water filtration works, for bringing students into nature and bringing green spaces, it's going to dramatically impact the region where we stand. And so there's a couple of signs here. They're going to repurpose the plinth as well as the stained glass, as you can see here, honoring the Trinity. They're going to try to take every material that we can have and tell that story. There will be plenty of educational signage that our ChangeLabs will help develop. We'll utilize the Embrace student marketing team for that as well to develop the materials. And so now we're starting the fundraising effort for the top site park attractions. UE will be heavily involved in that. Anything we can do, we have a tax deductible account set up for the park. If any businesses want to sponsor pieces of it, they can just reach out to the University of Evansville and we will work with them.